For centuries, we thought it was just a story. The Trojan War, Achilles, Hector, the giant wooden horse, all part of Homer's epic poem, the Iliad, a grand myth about a legendary city called Troy. But what if I told you the myth was real? We thought Troy was just a legend, until we dug it up. This is the incredible story of how one man's obsession turned a timeless myth into historical fact. Our story begins not with a hero, but with a wealthy German businessman named Heinrich Schliemann. He wasn't a trained archaeologist, but he was a man with a singular burning passion. Since he was a child, he had been captivated by the Iliad and was convinced that Troy was a real place to be found. Everyone in the academic world thought he was crazy. They believed the Iliad was pure fiction. But Schliemann had money, determination, and a copy of Homer's epic, which he decided to use as a treasure map. Homer's text gave clues about Troy's location. It was near the Dardanelles Strait, out within sight of the sea and close to two rivers. Following these descriptions, Schliemann bypassed the popular theories of his day and focused on a large, unassuming mound in modern-day Turkey known as Hisarlik. It fit the description perfectly. He believed this was it. This was Troy. In 1871, he began to dig. And when I say dig, I mean he attacked the mound with a fervor that would make modern archaeologists weep. He wasn't delicate. He used dynamite, blasting through layers of history in his frantic search for Homer's city. His methods were destructive, and he's still a controversial figure today because of them. But you can't deny. He got results. Then came the moment that shocked the world. In 1873, Schliemann announced a spectacular find, claimed to have unearthed a vast hoard of gold and precious artifacts, diadems, necklaces, rings, and goblets. He dramatically named it Priam's treasure, after the legendary king of Troy. He even had his wife, Sophia, photographed wearing the ancient jewelry. For Schliemann, this was the ultimate proof. He had found King Priam's city. The world was stunned. The myth was starting to look very, very real. But here's where the story takes a fascinating twist. Schliemann thought he'd found the one single city of Troy, but he was wrong. As he and later more careful archaeologists continued to excavate, they made a mind-blowing discovery. Hisarlik wasn't just one city, it was a stack of cities, built one on top of the other, like a historical layer cake. There were 9 main layers, representing settlements spanning over 3,000 years. This meant there wasn't just one Troy, but 9 of them. So, the big question became, which one was Homer's Troy? The Troy from the Iliad? Schliemann believed the treasure he found came from the second layer from the bottom, which we now call Troy II. He declared it the city of Priam. But there was a problem. Modern dating techniques showed that Troy II was far too old. It was destroyed around 2300 BC, full 1,000 years before the Trojan War was thought to have occurred during the late Bronze Age. Schliemann, in his haste, had literally dug right past the Troy he was looking for. Later archaeologists, digging with more precision, started to focus on other layers. The prime candidates became Troy VI and Troy Via. Troy VI was a magnificent city. It had massive sloping defensive walls, watchtowers, and a grand citadel looked exactly like the well-walled Troy described by Homer. It was a powerful, wealthy city, at its peak right around the time of the Trojan War. For a long time, many believed this was it. But Troy VI seems to have been destroyed by a massive earthquake, not a war. This brings us to the next layer up, Troy Via. And this is where the evidence gets really compelling. Troy Via was built right on the ruins of the earthquake-damaged Troy VA. The people rebuilt the walls. But they also crowded the city, subdividing large houses into smaller dwellings, as if they were cramming more people inside the defenses. And crucially, this city shows clear, undeniable evidence of a violent end. Archaeologists found widespread fire damage, piles of sling stones in the streets, and even unburied skeletons, all pointing to a brutal siege and conquest that happened right around 1200 BC, the exact time frame for the legendary Trojan War. Many scholars now believe this city, Troy Via, is our best candidate for the historical Troy from the Iliad. The clues didn't just come from the ground. It came from other ancient empires too, in the archives of the powerful Hittite Empire which ruled much of ancient Turkey. Scholars found clay tablets that talked about a powerful kingdom on the coast called Archaeology, which sounds a lot like Achaeans, Homer's word for the Greeks. These tablets also mention a major city in that region called Waialusa. Linguists traced the name and realized that Waialusa is very likely the Hittite name for what the Greeks called Ilias, the other name Homer used for Troy. These texts even talk about disputes and battles over Waialusa, providing external confirmation that a powerful city, just where Troy was located, was a point of conflict during the Bronze Age. Today, if you visit the site of Hisarlik in Turkey, you can walk through the very ruins that Schliemann unearthed. You can see the different layers of the 9 cities of Troy touch the massive walls of Troy Vi. And imagine the final desperate battle in Troyvia. And of course, standing guard at the entrance is a giant, modern wooden horse, a nod to the enduring power of the myth that brought this place to light. So, was the Trojan War real? Maybe not exactly as Homer described it, with gods meddling in human affairs and 10 years of non-stop battle. But the discovery of Troy proves that behind the epic poem lies a kernel of truth. There was a real city called Troy. It was powerful, it was wealthy, and it was likely destroyed in a war around the time the legends say. Schliemann, for all his flaws, opened our eyes. He showed us that sometimes the greatest myths aren't just stories, they're memories, waiting to be rediscovered. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time.